Hello everyone, and welcome back to Unenthused Gaming. Today, we're diving into the recent Escalation of Freedom update for Helldivers 2, which seems to have been the main cause of the game's serious decline from quite the position of a Game of the Year contender, and it might even be the thing that buries the game for good. It has left the community in turmoil. You'd think that such a significant update would be well received, but many players are expressing their dissatisfaction, leading to the game now sporting a mixed review tag on Steam. So let's discuss what happened and what went wrong. Escalation of Freedom marks the first major content drop for Helldivers 2. This update is notable not only for its size, but also because it received its own trailer, suggesting a significant marketing effort. If the game followed a seasonal format like many other live service titles, this surely would be the start of Season 2. However, the reception has been controversial to say the least, and it's clear that the update has not unfolded as Arrowhead Game Studios likely anticipated. So where did they go wrong? Well, for starters, the developers have returned to their infamous nerfing tactics. And so far, this patch has seen two major items hit hard with nerfs, which has become a primary source of frustration for the general community. First off, it was nerfing the Breaker Incendiary. The weapon, a fan favorite and widely regarded as the best bug weapon in the game, has had its magazine size reduced from 6 to 4. Additionally, its recoil has been increased from 28 to 41. At first glance, these changes seem quite drastic. The recoil adjustment sounds significant, and the reduced magazine size is bound to affect gameplay. Understandably, this has upset many players. However, looking at it from a devil's advocate sort of point of view, we can see that we can maybe offer a different perspective here. That being that despite the nerfs, the Breaker Incendiary remains one of the best bug weapons available. The recoil increase is not that noticeable in combat, and it doesn't feel like there is a huge difference in handling it. The real impact comes from the reduced ammo count, which is certainly felt. That said, this can be managed with better ammo management, or by using the supply pack that is available to you. And if you do this, you might not notice that much of a difference in terms of gameplay. And lastly, while the nerfs were not as severe as they could have been, it's understandable that the community's frustration was present. It's not just about the Breaker Incendiary being nerfed, it's the broader sentiment of players feeling that their favorite weapons are being unfairly targeted. Now, another big controversial change is the nerfing of the flamethrower, which was previously a fan favorite weapon. The flamethrower's strengths were that it was a great quick solution for taking down chargers and held its own against smaller bugs. It was balanced by its limited ammo capacity, forcing players to choose between using it against chargers or for horde clearing. And from what I've seen, the weapon still has the sort of design flaw of constantly lighting the user on fire, causing damage and potentially death. All in all, these checks kept the flamethrower balanced as the perfect middle ground between anti-tank and horde clearing for bugs, especially against chargers. So it was a great weapon, although the animations have been modified, and it no longer looks like it shoots flames like an actual real flamethrower, but rather it looks more like a sort of gas-based lighter. So that aside, post-nerf, the flamethrower has been turned into a wave-clear-only weapon, as it now struggles immensely against chargers. And according to Arrowhead, the new realistic flames, quote-unquote, should not penetrate objects like the armor, and instead, the expected behavior is for the flames to bounce off, which, again, is not really a realistic behavior if we are comparing it to the behavior of real-life flamethrower weapons. And so players feel that this change has significantly reduced the flamethrower's effectiveness and versatility, making it obviously a way less viable weapon in certain situations. For example, its ineffectiveness against chargers is that previously a charger's weak spot was its leg, and in a recent gameplay clip, we can see the player shooting at a charger's leg for a very long time, losing track of how many canisters they used, yet it clearly does more or less nothing. The only effective way of dealing with chargers now is to attack their rears, which is completely ineffective and takes a very long time. So that about sums up the effects of the nerf upon the flame weapons in the game. Focusing now on the business decisions and the community sentiment, the timing of these nerfs raised questions about Arrowhead's decision making, because it seemed unwise to nerf the two best flame weapons right before the release of the paid Freedom's Flame armor, and many players who would have probably bought into this purchase were now clearly reconsidering and doubting the choices of the company moving forward. The game has seen a history of a few patches and a few leadership changes. One such tweet coming from senior dev Palisade stepping down as CEO, which raised eyebrows in the community. And while patch 1.4 was widely regarded as one of the best patches they released, it only added to the confusion regarding the direction of the game when Escalation of Freedom finally dropped. Many players were left feeling like they wanted a bit more from this update. In their blog post, Arrowhead promised awesome additions, long-awaited improvements, and a ton of surprises to discover. However, looking back, it feels like a bait-and-switch design, made to drum up hype. There was a lack of any surprises to discover, maybe more content, but not a lot of surplus surprise additions or anything unexpected. The new additions and the new content felt more or less similar to what was already there. There are some reskinned biomes, the new swamp biome, which is just a darker version of the existing one, and the mega bases, which are simply larger versions of the outposts that we've had since day one. And there are new rewards, which are also sort of lackluster and disappointing, as in the rewards for completing a mega base are also just 2 super samples and 4 rare samples, which is hardly enticing, making it hard to justify the risk involved in attempting to conquer them. Overall, there is a need for more variety, and if there had been a couple of new stratagems, additional enemy types, and perhaps new ways to spend metal samples and requisitions, the game would have been much better received. There is something to be said about the balancing issues overshadowing the content quality, in that the nerfs to key weapons have become the focal point of the community's discussion, which is unfortunate in part because the content itself does deserve some level of recognition and is actually not that bad, but everything considered, this is the situation we have at hand, so it is what it is. Now, relating to performance improvements and bug fixes, on a more positive note, many of the annoying bugs and glitches that have existed for the past 2 months have been addressed. There have been less major bugs experienced. However, there were no major performance changes in the patch, which is quite disappointing because I don't think the performance has worsened, but it did not get any better either. So, drawing a line, in a sort of conclusion, we can say that the Escalation of Freedom update has sparked significant debate within the Helldivers 2 community. The nerfs to key weapons like the Breaker Incendiary and Flamethrower have left many players feeling frustrated and disillusioned with the future of the game. Arrowhead Studios have addressed some of these concerns in part, and it seems like they are maybe working to rebuild the trust of their player base. But it will be a long and harder road ahead if the game is to rise up to its former glory and level of player enjoyment. And conceivably, the only way that can happen is if they truly listen to the feedback and making thoughtful adjustments that can steer the game back on its course and ensure its long-term success. Thank you for watching. I'm Unenthused Gaming. Please hit like, subscribe, share, all that stuff if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you and have a good one.